Everybody can wave now. All of us that have actually joined. We might be a little short today for a couple of reasons, guys. One is on the gold side, there is a corporate sponsored event. So we may not run the full hour because our Kyle Matta from this office in Rochester is one of the panelists within that. And so we may have some of our Century 21 people who won't be on today. And then, of course, the other is, I won't say I intentionally waited until this morning to remind everybody, but I did kind of wait until this morning to remind everybody because I think this is we'll call it another good test as to where people are at in regards to their commitment to their own business. So you guys get kudos for that. Let's see, I've got to do let's start with let's start with Miss Elizabeth DePerrin, because it's taken about a year. It's been about a year, hasn't it, since we've talked? And there was, well, I've got to make sure, and it was more to the point that she felt that she could actually give new mentees what they deserve from the mentors. So I saw your announcement come through. I think it was yesterday. I read it and I went, yay. So welcome aboard on that. But let's start with, the aspect of the good news. It's been 2 weeks. Let's share with each other the good stuff that has happened. There's only a few of you to be able to share, but Becca, you're always good for something. What do you got out there?
I wish I had something. I had to take about a week or so off for some personal things, so I haven't been really into it as much. So I'm kind of getting back into it. All right. I guess a somewhat good thing is that I talked to one of my sellers who is very adamant on staying on a very high list price, and I finally had more of a very stern discussion, I guess, about it. And it was a little bit stressful on my end, but I feel like I was pretty professional, but also like I guess relatable in a way. So I guess I'm happy I had that conversation to finally get us somewhere in adjusting our list price. But
that's cool. I like that. Did he make that adjustment out of curiosity?
So no, not yet. I'm still waiting for that, and probably over the weekend. But I have there's 2 sellers on the mortgage, on the deed, all those details. So I've been mostly speaking to one of the 2. So I'm waiting for them to finally get on the same page. So
when you took the listing, how did you work with them, knowing that there's 2 and they're in 2?
Well, when I got into it, I didn't think that it was going to be this difficult speaking with 2 separate people. But I feel like anytime I talk to the one, they're always in separate areas. The one that is more stern on keeping that high list price, she's in Florida right now and is, there for family reasons. So it's been a little difficult the past couple of weeks, just being in touch with them. But, at first I thought I had the idea that I was mostly speaking with the one, even though both their names were on the house. I thought I was mostly discussing everything with the one, but turns out it's the other that I am not really in a lot of contact with. That's more.
So anybody get one of the things that we preach in regards to pre-qualifying, Becca, you're actually bringing up here that's really important. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah. The pre-qualifying questions.
Yeah, the pre-qualifying question in particular, there's one. Will all the decision makers be there?
Gotcha.
So you just given it's the prime example as to why we want to make sure that all decision makers will be there.
Yeah.
Because the example I always give when we talk about this is the one where it's an estate, probably what you've got. You've got, we'll create one anyway. We're going to go,
Sure.
it's an estate. You got two people. One assigned the personal representative or executor. And you think, how many people need to sign the paper? Just
Mhm.
one. And how many people are going to make that decision? We don't know.
Mhm.
But if there's a brother and sister who's part of the estate, although the brother got assigned the personal representative, the sister is the one who gets to have the big voice. She's the controlling one, or she's the one who needs money the most. And so she's not going to think realistically. I mean, that's the actual scenario. So when we talk about you here, I'm going to say you got to get them there, but I also
Yeah.
know there's exceptions, but we need to do everything we can to make sure that we get all the decision makers on a call, on a
Mhm.
Zoom, whatever it would be, to make
Right.
sure that we avoid what you're running into.
Right.
So I said, what did you do originally? It would be, if you did that, go back to that. But my suggestion for the future,
Mhm.
get them on Zoom, get both of them
Right.
on there, re-present your
Right.
case.
Yeah, I think once I'm so for the listing appointment and for signing the documents and everything, both of them were there, and we were all at the same table discussing everything on the contract and whatnot. But I think once the one comes back from vacation, we're gonna have more of a meeting, I guess. So
Awesome.
yep.
Okay. Latoya Compton, I know she's got stuff for us. Latoya, can you, I know you're kind of in a listen mode, but do you have a second where you can join us? And I just want everybody to share or hear a little bit about what your experience was with the transaction you had going. We'll see if we can get you on here. I'm guessing she's probably tied. So I know there's a number of people that join us so that they can learn, and Latoya's one who she's on a dual career basis and has things to deal with. But Latoya, I just bring it up because she had a deal put together that became the deal from hell, for the lack of better words. And so reminder that real estate is easy, but it requires hard work. And there's going to be those things where it's just like you want to bash your head against the wall because people are stupid and they impact upon people that you're representing. And then we can't help because of who we are. We take it to heart. And then all of a sudden we get overly emotionally involved and we buy into the drama. But what I got to tell you is that you just look at it and you go, okay, what's the problem? How do I fix it? Now I'm giving you the easy stuff on that one, but you ask the question of yourself, what's the problem? How do I fix it? Now, here's what I want to give you. Stay away from the drama. Everything that we can do, we can create drama. There's enough agents out there who will create drama when it's totally unnecessary and isn't going to fix the problem. Now, I'm not saying don't use drama to get sales done. You know, the purchase of a home is totally emotional. And for a seller to sell a home, the emotions will be there if they've lived in it for 50 years, 30 years, 20 years. I mean, gosh, the last thing I actually sold was a travel trailer. And as I watched somebody pulled away, I kind of got a little emotional as I was watching my travel trailer leave. And I already had a brand new one. So, you know, it is an emotional experience. But when it comes to fixing problems, just get to the point where you leave the drama out of it. Okay. And that was just something that LaToya had, but boy, did she have a learning lesson on getting it, her first deal. And it, by the way, it fell apart to no fault of her own. And then it was just like, okay, wow, now what the heck do I do? And, you know, we had an attorney involved on that side of it. So not fun. So we got a small group. There's good news out there. But I want to share something. And Dan, Chad's not on there, but you want to give a little intro to what you know I'm going to share here?
Yes, I'll take over from here. So would be 2 weeks ago, doing my mentor meeting with Chad, who's my mentee, and we're looking at his numbers, and I got him on the RE scoreboard, and I'm having him track what he can on there because it's a lot more reliable than writing it down or just guessing. And we came to the conclusion that he is not where he needed to be at his 30 days. So I told him, I asked him, prospecting is your issue. I can already identify that. Is it the amount of effort you're putting into it, or are you not doing it? It's one of those two. So we had some tough conversations. We bumped his numbers up. And surprisingly, by bumping his numbers up for the amount of leads and prospects he needs to call, yes, thank you, it's right there. We were able to, out of the 100 people he was supposed to call, he called 51. He generated 3 total leads off it, 1 seller, 2 buyers that are actively ready to go in the next 30 to 60 days. And I'm hoping this next time we'll actually have a real one there in some buyer controlled sales goals also. But that's the guideline that we laid out. And to prove a point to him, I took the previous week's 4 or 5 sheets, I think it was, and stacked them all next to each other with this one at the end. And I says, look what we were doing for our numbers and look where we are now by bumping them up. I says, it's very important. We got to set the bar a little bit higher. I shouldn't say a little bit higher. You need to set the bar high enough to get results. So if you're only wanting to do 20 calls for a whole week, I think you should just put your license into getting, what do they call it? Timeout, escrow. I don't know what the hell they call it. I've never had to do it, but put your license into that and just go work somewhere else. But having those numbers higher, there is better results because you're having more touch points with people. And he called probably over 100 people, but he only was able to contact 51 people that could talk back to him, whether through text, Facebook, or through the phone. But I can tell you, him and I did sit down for 3 hours, and all we did is prospect sphere of influence. And I sat there and did it with him too. I called like 70 some people, only got 25 people I actually talked to. So it brings to light things I have to do on my end of the business if I'm going to hold him accountable too. But raising those numbers up made a huge difference for him. And tough conversation at the start, yes, but he feels a hell of a lot better about it after this meeting because he sees results. So I'd rather have someone tell me, get your shit together, and then I see when I get my shit together, I have results. Like, it feels better. I'm not mad at nobody. Don't feel bad about it.
I think it was just awesome to see this. And what I did, I called Dan just to let him know, guys, when you turn these reports in, I don't get a chance always to look at each and every one of them. But some are going to stand out. And it's either going to be because the numbers are just way off and they are not logical, or it was like what his mentee Chad has here, where my first catch was, what do you mean he's only going to work 2 days? This is the coach and me jumping out. What do you mean only 2 days? And then I looked and I went, well, 2 days, he's going to do 12 hours of prospecting. He's going to contact 100 people. And doggone it, he only got 51.
Yeah. I'm sure he called close to that, but he talked to 51 physical people. I told him, don't count voicemails. You count voicemails, you're cheating.
That's it. Yep, it's actual we talked to. So in the end, these numbers actually come very close to balancing out. And for someone who's part-time or dual career, as we will put it, these are great numbers. They're goals. And to know that, hey, he hit 51, fantastic. the reason that I also want to pull it out is like, Becca, you know, you're out there, you're full-time, right? Full-time mom also. But I want you to compare in regards to the numbers. How does that in comparison to what I'm doing? Or Latoya, because you're mine here in Rochester. How is what Chad's done here in getting 51 contacts? His goal was 100, but he only got 51. How does that compare to mine? The reason I point this out is, are any of you where you want to be? You know,
No.
Rebecca, okay, and Latoya, no. Here becomes the bottom line. Can't make it any simpler to this. How many people am I getting in front of where I'm in a job interview, be it a buyer or a seller? And I could tell you that if you're full-time, you're probably a minimum of one a week. Okay. If you're dual career, depending upon here, I know when I interview and I bring somebody in, if you're going to be dual career, it is because you're going to transition over to. So even in a situation like that, it's, you got to get in one person in front of one person a week. There's a minimum, it's 2 per month. There's a minimum, it's 2 per month. Because look, I mean, like where I'm at right today with Rochester, the average sale price is close to 300,000. You do 4 deals and you've closed 1.2 million. Okay, that's easy. And oh, by the way, that's still a poverty level income. So we have to get in front of people who will say yes. How do we do that? We've got to generate leads. How do we generate leads? There's still only to this day, and it drives me batty that people talk about, well, that's old school. That's the old way. No, you still have 2 ways. You either go see people, you either talk to people. There's, you know, they didn't always look like this, but that's what existed back in 1987 when I got in the business. And it's still the primary tool that you've got to be able to talk to people. The other is, you have this thing called a cell phone. You've got the thing called a computer. It has one of these, and you type text messages or anything where here's a qualifying contact, where you're engaging in conversation. You're back and forth in conversation. So that's one way. The other is to do the things that will get people to call you. Let's keep it simple. Mailing, using the post office. Social media. And I, you know, with that, we've got Core Listing Machine, but that, if all we're doing is relying upon that, then we're not working. Using technology and social media means we've got to be on it, doing things, promoting, pushing the videos, responding to people, questions that it's out there and reminding people that, you know, like Becca, I know I see a lot of your stuff will come up on my Facebook feeds, and people go, okay, yeah, hey, Becca, she's human. Oh, by the way, she sells real estate and she's good at it. That's what we want to do in regards to using social media. And remember, yes, I am a human. I'm still your friend who happens to sell real estate. So be who you are and promote that you do real estate. That's on your personal page. And of course, make sure that you build the professional page as you're going along. The other is we can spend a lot of money by using, well, EDDM is probably one of the most efficient ways if we're going to drop things out there. But when I say efficient, it's the cheapest. But we can do targeted predictive mailing is the way that I would put it. Because there are systems out there now that use predictive, I don't know what they call them, analytics, to go, here's people who are likely to sell within a certain amount of time. So it's like taking a shotgun, but what are they, I forget what they call it. Dan, you're
A choke.
choke, that's the word. Muzzle was the only thing in my head, and I'm going, that's not right. A choke, but it takes it from the shotgun blast going out here and brings it into here. And that's what that's like. But guys, it's one of the two. And if we take a look at the last 2 weeks, and I said, how many appointments that we go on, I would hope that, like for Becca, that would be 2. Okay, we're not going to call each other out, but I've got a pretty good feeling from the good news that we didn't go out on appointments this past 2 weeks. Okay, so if we didn't go out on appointments in the past 2 weeks, how much money have we made?
Nothing.
0. So forget, by the way, so let me take it to another degree. If we didn't, we did a great job, man. We went out and nailed it. Forget, 51 in a week. I was getting 50 in a day. And I did that 5 days. And I came up with 0 appointments. A great week in effort, but a really bad week in regards to production, right? But if you were to do that, if Becca, you came on and said, hey, Darwin, I made 250 contacts just last week, but I didn't get any appointments, then you and I are going to spend more time and we're going to find out why, right? I mean, look, that's the effort. Now, how do we get to the productivity that should have resulted to? But if we've got zeros, then the coach in me's got to love you enough to go, we've got to have a fierce conversation. If I need you guys for yourselves, and Dan, I love that conversation that you had with Chad to get that result. It's called a fierce conversation. Guys, real estate sucks when it comes to setting appointments, because nobody is going to just hand you leads. And if they do, you're going to get a small portion of the commission. We have to generate our own leads. We have to do the part that sucks to enjoy the true fruits of the labor. And Becca, were you on last week for the Lunch and Learn?
The Lunch and Learn. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so you heard what Kyle and Phil gave.
Mm-hmm.
Best Lunch and Learn of the year. And I'm sorry if you didn't make it. 1, because shame on you, you didn't make it. But 2 is that I forgot to record it and you can't watch it. And I say I forgot. I just thought I pushed the button. I had recorded for 17 seconds before we even got started. So here was the greatest one, but this was the reason it was so great. 28 million and 20 million. I'll round off. Let's call it 50. 2 people doing $50 million in production. And what was it they did to find business? Go ahead, Elizabeth. Do that again. Everybody look at Elizabeth.
Door knock. They were door knocking.
When was Kyle knocking? You remember that part? What, do you remember
What's
when
that?
he was doing?
Mm-hmm.
What month was the one that was a key to me that I brought up?
Oh,
The
in the
month?
winter time?
It was in
December,
December.
wasn't it
By the
December?
way, he did it other times, but when he first told me about this, it was in the month of December. It was like the second week in the month of December.
Mhm.
It was in downtown Rochester. It was in amongst 4, 5, and $600,000 homes.
No, in Rochester, in the downtown, is not that large of an area, if I recall. No.
It really isn't.
What is Kyle's
So
last name?
Matta, Matta. And Phil Cini, if you'll remember, Phil did something a little bit different, and I even complimented him because as much as I'm learning in regards to his business, I've always said that there's geographic target marketing, which means I send a lot of mail to the same people over and over and over again. Okay. Farming is geographic target market, where I'm also working to build relationships. So that means my face has to be out in front of these people. I need to be talking with them and learning about them and educating them. So I'm building this relationship. And this is what Phil does in the Glacier Club, which is a golf community. So what also makes it easier is when your average sale price is not 150 or 200, but it goes up to 400 or 500, 600, because you chose a geographic target market where you close, I think he's 12 units. I know he just had one that he shared last week. He actually double dipped it. You're muted again.
The one thing I really loved about Phil is that he's become so dominant in that market that the other agents don't even try to farm it anymore, because they know that they're just not going to get any business. He's got that strong of a reputation over there that he's built, which was pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And matter of fact, both Phil and Kyle are both in their 7th year. So this is their 7th year in the business. Now, Kyle, by the way, is only 29. And he drives a Lamborghini. That's his second one. He moved up. So the key is it's hard work. The other part that I love that they brought up, we were talking about just talking to the people in your sphere of influence. Both of them jumped onto this call at noon, but both of them had already talked to in double figures, if I remember right. They were already in double figures of individuals that they've talked to within their sphere of influence on that day, where they were giving us an hour of their time. So, this is supposed to be motivational and inspirational. But Dan, like the conversation you had with Chad, guys, this is a conversation I've got to have with you, because some of us need to look in the mirror and go, are you going to do it or not?
So I have a question with that, and like with, I don't know, Dan, if you mind chiming in, but I'm curious when
Not
it
at all.
comes to the prospecting. I know it has to do, like, he called 100, talked to 50. Was that mostly his actual sphere, or were you having him call FSBOs and like expired listings? Like, I'm just curious. I've called a few FSBOs, and I want to do more of that, but I don't know how to talk to expireds as much. But I just didn't know if it was mostly his sphere or actual new people that you
Okay.
suggested.
Understood. So to answer that question, I found with my business when I first started, a big thing that wasn't brought to me was working my sphere. I didn't really know how to do that. So this past year, I had to go through and figure out what do I need to do to make sure everybody I know, like basically people like that are my cheerleaders, why aren't I squeezing them for business, for lack of a better term? Why aren't I reaching out to them to figure out if I can help them?
Mhm.
So that was lacking in me. So that's something I wanted to instruct Chad to do, is like the first thing we're gonna do is work your sphere. Because if you can't convince those people or help them out, you can definitely can't help a FSBO out. I definitely don't think you can help an expired out, because it's the talking pattern and getting that adjusted to that. And who better to talk to than somebody that you might know, or your best friend, or, what have you. I called FSBOs last Friday. I think I called 40 of them. And oh boy, did I get a swift kick in the pants. I forgot how tough that was. Because
How
even
tough
for
they
me,
are. Mhm.
I was so focused on my sphere, I hadn't called a FSBO in like a year. And Chad's like, "You want me to call FSBOs?" I was like, no. I said, "I can't help you do this better right now." I said, "Don't call them. Keep working your sphere." And he's to the point now where he's excised all of his sphere for new contacts. Like, "Hey, I'm a realtor, people." But I told him, now it's time to start doing open houses. Now it's time to start door knocking. Now it's time to start going places to where you can meet new people. So that
Sure.
way, next week when you call some people from your sphere, you can start working new people in and not make it so robotic and things of that sort. But I'm taking coaching with Alex now to get better at FSBOs, because I saw something lacking in what I could do. And
Sure.
I've only snagged one FSBO in my 4 years of doing this. And I want to up those numbers because I'm missing out on a market that I can be effective in.
Sure.
And for him, I don't see a benefit to him right now for me to tell him to call these people when it's just really going to take the wind out of his sails. I'd rather him focus on things that he can work on until I can better instruct him, or until he himself decides to do coaching with Alex or find some coaching service to where he can be more effective. I don't want to waste my efforts on something that I don't know how to do with him as well as I would like to. But really working the sphere is super important. It's been super important to rejuvenating my business too. And I think that's something that's been very lacking, because that's the best place to get people that they're already rooting for you. They like you to an extent. You have their information. So the sphere is what I really like to focus on, especially for agents starting out, because if we don't focus on that and we're doing those tough calls all the time, it just gets tougher and tougher. We don't have no softball calls in there. And business, our friends and family are the ones that bring us the most business.
So with that, I think part of my struggle with my sphere is that they're all 2 or more hours away from me. It's family, it's friends, it's people I went to school with. I only have about 10 people from my sphere that are in the area that I moved to and decided to get my license, around or whatever.
Understood.
So, I mean, obviously, like, I'm still friends with them on social media and things, so they see it that way. Is it worth, I mean, the answer is probably yes, but I guess I'm just speaking out loud. So it's probably still worth calling them or messaging them, even though they're literally on the other side of the state. But
let me ask you a question. If they said, "Rebecca, I have $1 million listing, we list my house, you're going to drive 2 hours to do it?"
Oh, 100%.
Okay. So why don't we just apply that to business overall? If they have business and you're hungry, let's take the business, because one listing will get us more listings or get us more buyers. The listing is the key to finding everybody. The buyer, you're the fly looking for the spider web. The listing is the spider web that catches everybody. And that's something I've even decided to work on the west side of the state with some people that I know, because I was like, I'm too hungry to turn business down. And it would be kind of cool to go out there for a weekend and vacation and work at the same time. I mean, I technically could write everything off then, but it really just comes down to hunger. I think at the point where you decide that I don't need this business, you've done everything right up until that point, to where it's like, I can give it to somebody else now.
Gotcha.
But for me, that's how I apply. Like, if my friend had $1 million listing, am I going out there? Of course. I mean, if he's got a $200,000 listing, I mean, I'm going to make the money on it at the end of the day. I mean, the listing is a great point, because you don't have to do anything except list the house, market it properly, be there, if the client needs you. But theoretically, I think I only have 4 or 5 touch points when I'm on my listings that I physically have to be there. And usually it's maybe even less than that.
Sure.
So
with, oh no, you can go.
Oh, I was going to say, so my motto is, I will drive to Europe to sell a house when people ask me that question. So I have some friends of mine that were in Holland, Michigan. I was going to actually refer that to an agent in Holland. I'm over in Belleville. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sell this house.
Hey,
I
you
sold
killed
it.
that listing, by the way. That
I
was
sold
insane.
that listing. I sold that house for over 80,000 above list price cash.
Mm,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, it was a huge deal. But for your sphere of influence over from where you were from 2 hours away, get an established realtor partner over there. So if somebody's looking to sell their house or buy a house, you
Sure.
can refer and make your money back that way too, vice versa for that agent
Mhm.
is another resource of income that, you know, could be effective for you there.
Yeah, sure.
And still be established as an expert in that area as well too, because you know agents there.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
Even
good point.
co-op on a listing
Sure.
so that you have that individual in that local marketplace to be able to work it.
Mhm.
Because I always also will say this, what's in the best interest of the client who I'm
Right.
working with? So is anybody going to take a call in Traverse City and go up there and work a buyer lead?
I won't. No.
No.
can't do it.
Yeah.
Cannot effectively service them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And most of our agents would waste them coming into the offices down in Southeast Michigan. So let me team up with, you know, a Coldwell Banker, a Century 21 agent who's up in that market and work it together, but let them take the leads. You know, it's like, look, I'm good. I just want to stay in because this is my sphere. The other is that there's the last I knew, the Real Comp MLS covered 92% of the real estate agents in the lower peninsula of Michigan. Now, I don't know if that's still that high because I think they lost a couple, but you might find that you can take a listing in Traverse City and it's in the MLS. On the other hand, Midland is an example I know is a board and MLS. They don't want to cooperate with anybody. They don't do data share. So if you take one there, you either need to, if they do it, pay an individual basis to have the listing submitted to the MLS or work cooperatively with our Midland office as an example. So
I found Zillow to be very effective when I listed that house in Holland because all of their buyers were calling their agents saying, hey, we found this house that's for sale on Zillow, and the agents weren't aware. So that was, yeah, so that worked out really well for me. So
yeah, matter of fact, it's a key that you bring that up because thankfully the buyers that saw it in Zillow saw it. But if I'm a buyer who's relying upon my local real estate agent to find me a house, they may never have even noticed it. I mean, thankfully, obviously it worked, but
yeah, we did 17 offers on that. So yeah, it worked.
Yeah. So definitely get it into the MLS. If you're going to take a listing outside of our area, make sure it gets into the local MLS.
Yeah.
That's huge. And at the same point, by the way, sometimes they won't allow it or it doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of properties up north like that. I did an off-market deal up there, but yeah, it's totally different up there, like Mayo area. But to come back, Rebecca, I think the root of your question you're asking is, I'm running out of leads. Is that fair to say?
Not particularly. I've been kind of avoiding reaching out to a handful of people because I, in all honesty, didn't think it was worth it. But but for some reason I was having the mindset of potential buyers, not potential sellers. So for some reason I wasn't thinking about literally the larger half of real estate. So
by the way, you're normal on that also.
Yeah.
That's normal thinking.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't
remember they can move. They may know people here.
Right.
And sometimes, again, you've got the referral opportunity. You're going to decide that it's best for you to work with them. But if they don't know that you do it or that you can help,
they can't use. Yeah. So I do have one more quick question. I know we're trying to avoid the whole hour. But I'm curious kind of. Okay, I was kind of curious on this general topic. So one of my listings, it's over in Lansing. I wanted to possibly do an open house. I'm waiting for my seller to say, let's do it. And I reached out to the Caldwell Banker office in Owasso, which is closer. And she gave me a couple of possible realtors that could help me. But I'm curious, when it comes to getting more leads, should I be the one to do the open house, or should I have someone assist me, since I don't want to promote myself as a realtor over there?
Okay, here's the key. Why do we do open houses?
For leads.
Yep, for leads. Mhm.
Leads. You don't want leads there.
Right.
How successful are open houses selling houses?
Not super
Exactly.
successful.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you will, these are old numbers, but they're still going to be fairly accurate.
Sure.
1% of the people who bought a home walked into an open house and bought the house that was held open.
Mm-hmm.
That's marketing, and I can tell you that would pretty much follow with what my experience has been. And most of the time that it's sold because the open house, I didn't get to sell it. It was the exposure, but I didn't get to sell it. It was also the aspect of convenience. So right now, and Phil mentioned this, put a home on the market, coming soon, hold the house open on Saturday or Sunday, so that, you know, it is, you can start seeing it on Saturday, it's held open on Sunday. And then if we've priced it correctly and the house is in balance with the price, it's sold for $80,000 over what we listed it for. And this has been a market for that to happen. However, what we really now have to do is why am I going to hold an open house? It's easy. Leads. I am looking for buyers and sellers.
Mm-hmm.
It also gives me a reason to go out and knock on the doors of the neighbors beforehand, which gives me more contacts. So, you know, and you've heard me share the story of Andy Smith, who worked with me, and he used to do open houses literally for that reason. And then he realized he didn't have to do the open house because he found out how easy it was to knock on doors when you're not selling anything. So don't sell. Go provide information, provide services, talk to people. And that's what he learned. So he never really had to do the open house again. When he wanted to go out and knock on doors, he'd just go knock on doors and he'd provide information. Do the right things before, during, and after the open house. If you go there with the intent of holding an open house just to get the house sold, you've wasted your time. I mean, there's so many other things that you could do with all of those open houses where they were not effective in getting a house sold. But it's open houses don't sell houses. Okay. Open houses will get you leads. When Kyle started, Kyle held open houses. You know, he'd go looking for the best house to hold open. Okay. Did that help in regards to that question, Rebecca?
Yeah. So in other words, it probably wouldn't be smart to hold an open house when it's a 2-hour away home.
Let me find an agent who wants to hold
Yep.
it open because he could benefit from it.
Awesome.
And I'll
Yep.
give you the example where it was me. I had Owasso. I had a listing in Owasso. I called an Owasso agent and said, hey, this is here. Do you want to hold it open? He used it to procure business.
Sure.
We hoped that it would have sold the listing. It didn't, but you know, he was doing it for the right reason.
Yep.
I want to go back to the aspect of the FSBO. Here's the key with a FSBO. Got a pen and a paper handy? Write this down. L, then under that C, D, because you can remember LCD. Call them until they list, or until they close, or until they die. And there is a reason that, yes, I throw that in there, but look, until they've listed with somebody else, until they've actually closed, not sold, closed, or until they die. Now, you know, look, I do, you know, a little bit of the funny on that, but you know, there's FSBOs forever, as we call them. When the sign has roots, that's a for sale by owner who's been there forever. As a matter of fact, they've probably increased their price, not reduced it. So the message is simply this: don't call FSBOs unless if you're going to call them on a regular basis and you're going to follow up, because it's upon the 4th, 5th, and 6th contact that most are going to list. You don't need much in regards to skills at all to list a FSBO, but what you got to have is a really hard, thick skin and the guts and resilience to handle the rejection time and time and time again until they realize they need you. Or you're so good that they went, dang, I should probably talk to her. Okay. And it is those two things. You're either going to be that good that they finally say yes to an appointment, or they say yes to an appointment up front, or you're going to be that persistent that they learned they couldn't get it done on their own and they need you. The last FSBO I had was this year. My eye doctor referred her to me. We talked, and matter of fact, there was a 2-week window between I originally talked to her and when we got back together, which worked out in my benefit because she now had the experience. She found out how rude realtors can be, how bad buyers can be. So when I called up to say, hey, it's Darwin, you remember me, Dr. Todd referred me. She said, yeah. I said, so listen, we were penciled it in to be together tomorrow at 4. Have you had the luck of getting your house sold? No. So you still want to get together? Yes. And I went and listed the house. Now, by the way, she had it on the market for $380,000. We priced it at $375,000. Put it on the market for that $375,000 for 2 days in a coming soon status. Friday morning, after Wednesday and Thursday, and only 4 appointments on a Clarkston ranch that was on almost 4 acres for $375,000. 2 of the 4 appointments canceled before they even saw the house. She calls me up and says, Darwin, what's going on? I said, I don't know. I made a couple of calls. We talked after I found out. She says, should I reduce it to $350,000? I said, yep. So why do I share that? A for sale by owner who for 3 weeks was on the market for $380,000, put it at $350,000, listing with me. Now, by the way, of course, reduce the commission on top of it. That's common. But why? It's because a professional who understands the market, what it takes to get homes sold, who's got all the, call it the information right in front of them, they can see from that one set of facts what they need to do. And what I did was to simply walk them into what the appropriate value would be. And I said, you know what, the reason for the $375,000 when we drop it to $350,000, as I said, you need to put it at $375,000 just to satisfy yourself. But just in those 2 days of coming soon and those 2 cancellations showed her that, you know what, $375,000 is too high and I don't want to deal with this anymore. We need to reduce it. And by the way, when she said, do we need to do $350,000? What was my response? Yeah. And how did I say it, Rebecca?
Yes. Nodding and
You give them that,
agreeing.
the little tilt in the head. It's like, yeah, you're all of that stuff is like, you know what, it sucks, but yeah, you need to do that. But it was real simple. I did the, yeah, I would. And she says, okay, do it. we don't need to be heroes. We're a hero when we get them to do what they really should be doing, you know? So with that, we'll wrap things up a little bit early, especially with the small group that we have. But you got a little bit more attention. So Rebecca, it's okay if you dominate.
Thank you.
If nobody else wants to help.
Sure.
They're all learning, but you got one-on-one coaching, and Dan and Elizabeth, thank you for jumping in today. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
You probably saw Alex and I with our little introductory video to what's coming for the fall. So instead of the Top Gun, there was a definite, we need to do something different. And I knew myself, and it was in this that I was looking to bring in somebody from the outside, and it wasn't quite there to where we had the support. And actually your manager said that, hey, you guys have been doing a great job educating. Why can't you guys do something? And I said, simply because I want something that will now impact upon productivity. Well, Dan, you've done exactly what needs to be done. And I love, we may be sharing a portion of that out to a whole lot of managers to forward to their mentors. Their job is not to teach you how to do it, not to train you, not to tell you how to do it. Your mentor is there to show you how to do it, to show you what you learned from a video, from a classroom, whatever it may be, and then watch you do it. So Dan, when you actually sat down with Chad, made calls with him, that was huge. So here's what's going to come up. Take the class, it's $199. I'll call it a class, but in reality, it's coaching. Because Alex and I are going to do a lot less talking and a lot more coaching. And you're going to be in small groups with an individual who's been in one-on-one coaching who will demonstrate. And then you're going to practice, drill, and rehearse. And then you're going to do. And you're the first ones to kind of get this kind of a detail. As an example, we might only, let's say we work on for sale by owners, because you brought that up. Then Alex and I will talk and teach for about maybe 30 minutes. Right now, by the way, this whole class is concept. It's going to be easy to put together. It's going to be more on he and I as to the delivery, but it's going to be this. We're going to teach you what you need to know so that you feel better about making that call to the sphere of or your, well, all of them, but in this case, the for sale by owner. Then we're going to put you into the small groups, and you're going to role play, and you're going to role play, you're going to role play. That will probably be about 1 hour. 1 hour of role play. Not talking and discussing, role playing. Then we're going to put you into 1 hour. You're going to make calls. Oh, by the way, everybody in the room, you sitting around with 7 other individuals at your team of 8. You're going to make calls for 1 hour. So when we talk about a lot less education, a lot more action, please, a little Elvis song. Dan, are you an Elvis guy, by the way?
The song you're talking about is a little less conversation.
A little less conversation, a little more action, please.
Yeah.
So I did play on that properly.
Yeah. I got
a little less conversation, a little more action, please.
Yeah.
That's what we're I'm gonna have to see if I can play that somehow on my on the next prompt, the next video here.
I'll send you
I
the
will.
YouTube link.
But anyway, that's what our whole intent is so that, Becca, you walk out of there and you're going to feel a whole lot more comfortable because you've finally had the abuse and you had the support of everybody around you while you were making that call. And you're hearing everybody in to do it. So it's not you walking into an empty office and looking around and going,
Now what?
he else is doing it. and they've made money. Well, it's because they probably were out knocking on doors or something of that nature. But that's why I say, let's simplify what we really need to do and decide whether or not we're going to do it. And what I would tell you is, if you're really in that point, don't make that decision until you've been through the school of hard knocks with Alex and I. Decide after, because he and I do this right. You guys will know whether or not you want to do that crap. And there's, when we talked about it and Alex said, hey, what about School of Hard Knocks? It doesn't describe much other than, yep, you're going to get kicked around. You're going to get punched, not by us, but because of the action that you're going to be taking. Fair enough? So I
Fair
can
enough.
count on you all being there?
Yes.
Awesome, because it is going to be limited. So yeah, guys, if you're a dual career, so I know Andre, that's you, Peyton, Latoya. If you're dual career, it's 1 day a week. It is, let me give you the dates again. I would take the days off. Take the days off if you're in a dual career mode and get here for this. And by the way, we have 40 seats. So this is definitely going to be more coaching. We'll have to have a lot more for us to go, holy crap, we need a new location. And it would probably be a new location so that we can hold those dates also. But there's 40 for sure. I don't know that we can do more, and it's at the MSU. The dates are September 15th. That's a Thursday. And then the 21st and the 28th are Wednesdays, 9:30 to 3:30. $199. Andre, I get it. Talk to Stacy and Heather. Okay. I'll tell you what, if the absolute will is there and this helps make decisions, we'll find a way. Fair enough? All right. If you guys got anything you need to talk to me, let me know. But in the meantime, it's still really simple. Go talk to people. And if you're struggling getting that, get with, well, I say get with your mentor, then get with your manager, and then look, I'm here, guys. I'm a lot busier now because of taking on the additional role with the Rochester office. So we just announced to this gang, and in about 1 hour and 1 minute, the Troy office will find out if you know Brenda Davis. Brenda is the co-manager with me here now. So she's going to be coming from the Troy office to work with me here in the Rochester office, so I can still focus on doing what we're doing to make sure that we all increase our productivity. All right.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
absolutely. Becca, jump on that
Great.
call now.
Yes,
Let's
I
get that
will.
other one on the gold side. So
All
see you
right, thanks, guys.
Great.
Yeah.
Bye.